Hello, mighty companions and fellow miracle workers. Thanks for joining me for my weekly Wednesday Wisdom video here on our Miracles Attraction community of Facebook. This is a community that my partner Carly Hardy and I founded as part of our Miracles tribe to support you and encourage you in your spiritual path. And we are all about A Course in Miracles, reality transurfing, the law of attraction, and other universal laws. And when you understand how those things work in the world, your life can become easy breezy and it no longer has to be a struggle. So that is what we are here to do, to show you by teaching and by example, because Carly and I have both had incredible miracles, amazing experiences in our life, and we know that it's possible because it happened to us. And we want it to happen to you. We are here to lift the consciousness of the planet, to raise the vibration and the frequency of the collective. And I'm so glad that you have joined me in this endeavor. So today I was going to talk about how you can get the things you want out of life. And step one in that process is knowing what you want. But I have a little caution here for you, which is that the things that you want need to come from a certain place and a certain purpose. So if the things that you want are material things, and there's nothing wrong with that, there's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting a new car or a nice home or luxury travel, but we always need to be careful to look at our purpose. Why do we want those things? Because the ego will tell you that it's important to have those things for egoic reasons. In other words, to feel better about yourself, to raise your status in society, to impress other people. And those are not valid reasons for wanting things. Those are a sure path to disappointment, because what happens is you end up with a new car, or you end up with the college degree, or you end up with the husband that you thought was going to solve all your problems in the world and make you happy so you can live happily ever after, and then you find out that's not it. Nothing outside of you can bring you joy. It's inside. So this is where we have to look. And that means the purpose for the things that we go after in life needs to be about aligning with spirit, feeling peace, feeling happiness, and feeling joy. And the way that we do that is the opposite of what the world teaches. So the world teaches, go out and do the things, go out and get the things, and then you'll be happy. And the way it actually works is you decide to be happy first, and then those things unfold for you. You make the decision to stay in peace and joy first, no matter what happens, and then those things unfold for you. So it can be a little tricky. You can't game the system. You can't say, oh, I really want $1 million, so I'm going to pretend to be happy now, hoping that the $1 million shows up. It won't work. The universe knows your true purpose and your true intent. So every day and every moment we have the option to choose what we want to focus on and what direction we want to go in. And you become like a vector on a path once you have made up your mind about a certain thing. So I have a couple of stories that I want to share with you. And what happens is the ego gets us into resistance and gets us distracted from following our heart's passion and our true purpose and our true desire. And in reality transurfing, they talk about the rustle of the morning stars. Your true desires are very subtle. They're not blatant, obvious things. They require stillness and require tuning into your heart, to your mind, to let go of all the worldly distractions and see what feels aligned and joyful for you. And that's going to be different for every single person. It's not a cookie cutter recipe. You can't just copy what other people are doing. You have to do the work to find out what works for you. So when I was in graduate school, I was working on my master's degree and I was struggling massively. All my life, school had come very easily to me. I always got good grades growing up and in college. I loved learning new things, and I found that school was fun and I could really kind of coast and I didn't have to study a lot. But when I got to graduate school, it wasn't like that. I had to write all these papers and read all these boring textbooks, and I was really struggling. And I was newly married at that time, and I remember just bursting into tears one day and sharing with my husband how miserable I was, that it seemed so hard. And I was at that point comparing myself to two of my classmates who seemed to just be breezing through, and I knew they were not any smarter than me, but they seemed to be, it just seemed easier for them in some way, somehow. And this is the pearl of wisdom that my husband shared with me at the time. He said, the only reason that it's working for them and it's not working for you is because they want it more than you do. They were willing to do the work. They had made up their mind that they were going to get the degree and they were going to stick with the program and stay the course, and they were not allowing themselves to be distracted. Whereas in my case, I wanted it, but I didn't want it enough to do all the things. I was in a state of resistance because I wanted it to be easy. I had conditions about how I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be fun. And when it wasn't easy and fun, my mind was like, just fighting the program. So we do this with a lot of areas in our life. I did this with parenting. I wanted raising kids to just be natural and be easy and be effortless, and it was not like that, and I was in resistance mode all the time until one day I just made up my mind that I am going to do this, I am going to get through it, I am going to be happy about it, and then life, the lights are flickering because we're having a big rainstorm here, so sorry for the weird effects. And then this happened again later in life for me when I started an eBay store. I started off kind of doing it as a hobby, and I had a neighbor friend who showed me how to get started, and then my neighbor friends started having incredible sales and making all kinds of money, and I wasn't, and I started to feel kind of jealous of her and envious. And I realized at a certain point that she had made up her mind this was going to be a business. She was going to take it seriously. She was going to be professional about it. And I had not made that mental decision. In my mind, I was already working, raising kids, running a household, and the eBay store was like just more work for me to do, and I had a bad attitude about it. So we call that, in our family, we call that a baditude. So I wanted it to be easy, but it wasn't, and I was in resistance about it. So I hope this is making sense to you. The resistance is all mental, and it all comes from your attitude and your approach, and whether you are on the fence and you are being conditional about how you want things to happen, or whether you are assured and your mind is made up. So there's a scripture in the Bible that says, if thine eye be single, thy whole being will be filled with light. If thine eye be single, thy whole being will be filled with light. When you have your focus on one thing and one thing only, and you don't allow other things to distract you or discourage you or get in your way, you are guaranteed success. So this is what happened to me on my spiritual path. I made a decision at a certain point that God was going to be my number one priority, my number one focus, and everything else was going to be secondary. And when I made that decision and committed and stuck to that decision, all the other things started to become effortless, but I had to stay the course. I had to not get distracted. And the ego hates this because the ego has us convinced that if we choose one thing to focus on, that we'll be making a sacrifice, that we'll be giving up all the other things. And it may seem that way in the world of form, but that is not how it works in reality. In reality, when you choose one thing to focus on, all the other things will fall into place. And it's not our job to know how that's going to happen or when that's going to happen. Our job is merely to stay focused. So we let the Holy Spirit do the heavy lifting. We decide what we want, and then we hand over the rest of it to the universe to work out for us, work out all of the details. But be sure when you decide what you want that it's coming from a place of love and joy, because A Course in Miracles says we don't know our own best interest. And what that means is the ego doesn't know. The ego doesn't know what's best for you. So the ego may have you convinced that what's best for you is a certain relationship, or what's best for you is a certain job, or what's best for you is acquiring something in the physical world, and that will bring you happiness. And as I said at the beginning of this video, that will never bring you happiness. The happiness has to start here. First, we have to tune into what it is that lights us up. Decide what it is that makes you feel good, that keeps your vibration high. And then tune into that frequency, and then decide where you're going to go with that frequency. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that when you were a kid, you loved to write, and you wrote stories all the time. But then you got into school and somebody said your stories were stupid, or they weren't very good, or you needed to focus on math or sports or something else, and you let that writing fall by the wayside. But deep in your heart, you still love to do that. Those things don't change. We're all born into this world with a pattern and a program for the things that we are gifted to do. One of my gifts is talking. I like to talk. It comes very easily and naturally to me. It doesn't come easily and naturally to everyone. Some people are very shy and very introverted, and they're not good at talking. My husband is very good with his hands. He can build anything. He can fix anything. He's very mechanical. I have no talent for that. So each of us have our own special gifts and our own special talents. And unfortunately, the world does not value all gifts and talents equally. So when we're growing up, we're programmed with societal conditioning to give more importance to some gifts and talents and less importance to other gifts and talents. I never thought speaking was a talent. To me, it just seemed like something anybody could do. But now I'm seeing that's not the case. So figure out what it is that lights you up, brings you joy, that comes easily and naturally and effortlessly for you. And set aside time to spend every day doing those things. And see where that leads you, and follow that breadcrumb trail down the path. And decide what you want to do with it and where you want to get to. But make sure it's coming from this place of delight, from childish delight, and not from a place of that thing will make me happy, or the world will reward me for doing that. Happiness is its own reward. So I think that's about all I have to share with you today. Please feel free to drop any questions below. If you have any comments for me, I read all the comments and I'm happy to respond. And stay tuned next week when Carly will be sharing a no complaints challenge with us here on this Miracles Attraction Community Facebook page. One of the things that has really given me energy and focus in my life is not scattering my energy with complaints and negative thoughts and negative words. Those will completely derail you from the path that you're meant to be on. So we are going to have a week of fasting from negativity, especially the spoken word complaints, and see what happens as an experiment. And I hope that you will join us. I'm Teresa McGallagher, and I love you. Thanks for tuning in.